Let's talk about it. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing? Good morning, good morning, good morning. On my way to work, sitting in my, my lovely 1 hour time of traffic that I sit in every morning. And this is what I've decided. I've decided that I'm going to have a every morning, conversation with you all, so you all can spend some time with me as I drive to work every morning. But yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about today is boundaries. I feel like this is something that we don't talk about, or it's one of those things that you shouldn't have to talk about. I feel in certain situations it should just, it goes without saying. But I guess when you're dealing with folks that don't read the room, so to speak, you have to establish boundaries. And, depending on the person, establishing boundaries could be very, it could not be taken, it may not be received well. It may be received as, like, what are you saying to me? You're trying to control how this relationship goes, or how you're trying to, set a schedule, things like that. And, to me, setting boundaries it goes without saying. I feel like in most situations, if not all situations, I read the room, and if you know me, and you think I'm not being honest in that statement, please go to the comments. Let me know, hey, you aren't really, that way. But for the most part, I feel like I read the room. And I try to always put myself in other people's shoes in pretty much all situations, because I don't ever want to make anybody feel bad. That might be a flaw for me, but I don't want people to feel bad, because I know how I feel when I feel bad, and it's not a good feeling. Why would I want to feel bad? And why would I ever want anyone else to feel bad? For what? I don't get any pleasure on other people experiencing pain or discomfort. I really, really don't. I just, I really, really, really don't. So for me, I don't ever want anyone to feel bad, and I don't want anyone to feel bad because of something that I did, okay? But the second part of that is, even though I don't ever want to make anyone feel bad, I still have to be true to myself, right? And I still have to say what I'm feeling, or share something with you, or depending on the scenario, explain, reply, state my case, defend myself. Never on, getting defensive. I'm not 18 years old. The gray hair should tell you something, even though these days gray hair doesn't say anything. But I'm already, I have a 35-year-old daughter. So unless I started at 2, I'm not a, I'm not a spring chicken, so to speak. So for me, I don't need to feel offended by things. Everybody has a perspective. Everyone has a point of view. Everyone has their own truth, or their own, their own experience in what they're going through. So even if my intent behind something is not to make you feel bad, that doesn't mean that I didn't make you feel bad. You know what I mean? So I'm okay, and I will always respect that, because I have to understand that other people have their own perspective. And that brings it all back to my first statement, which was, I always want to put myself in other people's shoes. I always put myself in other people's shoes. I don't ever want to make anybody feel bad. So going back to what I wanted to talk about, which is boundaries. There are some people that don't read the room. There's some people that, you have to tell them, hey, this is okay, but truthfully, this is what it is. And there are some people that no matter how you give them that explanation, they will find offense in it, and they will not be happy with it. And then they will have something to say back about that. Right? And so again, me being a person that I try to put myself in everybody's shoes, and honestly, this is something that I have to do on a daily basis, because of the type of work that I'm in. So I'm constantly putting myself in other people's shoes prior to having certain conversations or interactions, because I have to do that. I have to make sure that I'm being equitable. I am not being offensive. So I practice that all day long in my professional life. And so, yeah, I bring that into my personal life as well, So again, going back, I am dealing with a situation, or when the situation is a person is going to be offended by your need or want to establish boundaries because the room isn't being read, and then that person gets upset or does not appreciate and feels as though you're being dysfunctional. What do you do with that? For those of you who have made it this far in the video, like, seriously, help me out, because I'm in a scenario where, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So if you don't say anything about anything, you kind of lose yourself, right? You are just being, polite and not saying anything, but harboring things inside. Or the second option is you have a conversation and you say, hey, I really want to talk about, let's Monday through Friday, I have a routine, I do this and that. And this is the thing with that. I shouldn't have to explain a routine when living my life day to day, you know what I mean? Trying to do more than I can possibly do. And I'm always trying to be everything for everyone. And I sometimes lose myself in the process. So this whole long video that's almost 10 minutes long that I am going to shorten is basically to ask my friends out here, how do you deal with either not telling someone how you're feeling and establishing boundaries, or establishing boundaries is the second? And the question is, if the person is going to get mad, either way, which should you do, honestly? And what depends on that? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Bye.